Hey, Robin, this is John Fitz.
Hold on, honey.
We're not muted.
No, we're not.
How are you, Austin?
You can talk. Good.
Good. I haven't seen you in a long time. You doing okay?
Yeah.
Good. Are you doing the pledge tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, how exciting. Do a good job, okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Jenk.
Hi, how are you? You can say hi.
Hi.
You can say
Hi.
hi.
Is that Austin, Jenk?
Yeah. Yep.
Hi, Austin. This is really great that you're going to help us with the pledge today. Thank you for being here.
Dr. Graham, we also have Madeline and Elizabeth Lehman here to help us with the pledge tonight, too.
Hi, Madeline and Elizabeth. It's nice to see you. My name is Dr. Graham. It's really a pleasure to welcome you to our board meeting tonight. Glad that you're here. So we'll get started in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
That's awesome. I love your Christmas tree in the background, too. Let's see. For our principals, when we get to the pledge, is there a trick where we could have Austin and Madeline and Elizabeth be focused on the screen if I took their picture? It's not necessary, but does anybody have a little trick that I might be able to do? Okay, well, I'll figure it out. I can ask.
I don't know it.
No worries. I'm going to try to take a quick picture right now. Hey, Austin and Madeline and Elizabeth, if you guys could get a little closer to the camera, I'm going to just take your picture real quick. It's a little different to do it. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, get ready.
Dr. Graham,
Yep, and
you might be able to pin them. If you click the little, it looks like a little pin.
Okay.
If you pin them, it might put them center screen.
all right. Oh yeah, I see the pin. Can you pin two, Hillary?
I'm not sure if you can do 2 at a time, but I know if you pin one, it will put them right in the middle.
All right, let's do that. So this is going to be for Madeline and Elizabeth. This looks beautiful, and your Christmas trees right there. And say cheese. Oh, that's great. All right, now I'm going to, thank you, ladies. Now I'm going to pin Austin. Just give me a second. Oh, there you go. All right. And Austin, now I'm going to take your picture. If you want to move back a little bit closer to Mom, that would be great. And get ready for a big smile. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Excellent. All right. Thanks, Hillary. That worked out very nicely. All right. Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
And for Austin and Madeline and Elizabeth, I will count to 3, and then you can lead us in the pledge. 1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the state of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Can we have the principals just introduce the children who did the pledge tonight?
Yes. Hi, everyone. We had Austin Blink, who is a second grader at Kogabine in Mrs. Aldridge's classroom. And then we had Madeline and Elizabeth Lehman, who are fourth graders in Mrs. Chadwick's classroom tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for roll call this evening, we have with us Glenn Bobeck. Do we have Glenn here? He's not on my screen, but Glenn is here. We have Jay Grover, Nicole Novak, Dr. Brian Graham, Sue Marston, Vice President. I'm Ashley Dreyer, President. We have Robin McCreary, Trustee. And let's see, Joy Lamarca is joining us virtually as well. And who did I miss anyone? I think that's everyone. As far as announcements, if you could silence your cell phones, that would be appreciated. And also on Zooms, if you turn your mic off when you're not speaking, it helps too with any feedback from computer to computer. So turn your mic off until it's your time to speak. That helps. We'll begin with approving our agenda for December 14th, 2020. If I could have a motion for that, please. And a second.
I'll motion.
I can second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
objections? Any abstentions? Motion
Aye.
carries 7-0. And if I could have a motion to approve the minutes from November 9th, 2020, please.
I'll motion.
And a second.
Glenn will second if you can
I'll
hear me.
second.
Oh, Glenn. Okay, thank you. Glenn, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. We have some student ambassadors with us this evening. Mr. Fitzpatrick, did you want to introduce Charlotte?
Yes, thank you very much. I want to introduce Charlotte Tower to everyone. She's a 7th grader in the middle school and a member of our student council. Thank you, Charlotte, for being here. Take it away.
Hello, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte Tower. I am the Vice President of the Student Council at the middle school. The Student Council has been working hard to plan events that are safe and fun. With the changing school circumstances, it has been hard to make these events happen. We have planned a gratitude window decorating event and a holiday event that we are hoping to hold once we are back in school. We usually have our holiday assembly, but this year, unfortunately, we are unable to do so. However, we will still have our Spirit Week leading up to the winter break, as is our normal tradition. Our Spirit Week will be held virtually this year. Our Spirit days include Character Day, Holiday, Colors, Ugly Sweater Day, and PJ Day. Even though it has been hard to plan events, we have come up with some great ideas for all VCMS students to enjoy. And this concludes my presentation from Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. And from the high school, we have Allison. Mr. Loria, did you want to introduce Allison?
Absolutely. So Allison is here. Allison Zerwanka is here to talk a little bit about some of the activities and some of the progress of our DECA students this year, which obviously has been very difficult with our remote model, but they are plugging away and preparing for their coming competitions. So I'll let her tell you more.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allison Zerwanka, and I'm a senior this year. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight about what's going on at Grand Island High School. I've been a DECA member for 5 years, and I definitely do not remember any year like this one. Our club is 65 members strong, and we have been preparing for our virtual competition since September. I think Grand Island DECA is so successful because we have so many courses in the high school that prepare us for this business competition. Mrs. Chamberlain has worked with New York DECA in preparing online scenarios where we had a timed 2 hours to complete last week. We needed to also take a 100-question test online as well. There were individual and team events ranging from accounting to entrepreneurship to my event, which was sports and entertainment marketing. Our club should know the results of our competitions broadcast on a virtual awards ceremony to be held before the holiday break. From here, with all things considered, we will go on to virtual or hybrid competition at the state level, depending on the guidelines for our safety in the upcoming months. Either way, Grand Island DECA is blazing a path where no one has ever gone before, and I am so proud to be one of Grand Island DECA's presidents this year, alongside my classmate, Senior Emily Cohen. Also hard at work are Ms. Boutte and Mrs. Mernans, who are directing the Holly Jolly Holiday Showcase, featuring some of Grand Island's most talented students singing holiday music. This production will be available to live stream just before Christmas, so keep an eye out for that. And that is all I have for you this evening. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Allison. Moving on to correspondence, recognition, and good news, we have the Charlotte Sidway Playground update. Denise, did you want to talk about the playground?
I would love to talk about the playground. Thank you. As you know, October 24th was our final build day. It was the day that the community came together to put the final touches on the playground. And what that involved was moving 3 huge mountains of engineered wood fiber. And we had people from the community, we had parents, we had staff members, we had buildings and grounds, we had transportation, we had custodians. We were all staggered so that, there were not a lot of people there at one time. It was a very organized schedule in which people came for a few hours at a time. We had our own district clerk shoveling mountains of mulch, and I think she included some pictures in the board packet. A special shout out to our SRP unit. Out of their own funds and their own time, they purchased cement and put in our 2 benches ahead of time to save us some time on that Saturday, and 2 signs as well, so those were put up. We have 1 more bench to install, and that is the Buddy bench. You may remember the Gerard family purchased as a donation a couple of years ago when we first started fundraising for the playground. That finally came in, so we are going to put that in the spring along with the brick pathway. We are still selling bricks. People can get bricks inscribed with anything pretty much that they would like. So we're hoping to have a nice brick pathway for as long as it will stretch near, around, however, we have to figure out actually the placement based on how many we have, how that will actually go. But that will be outside of the perimeter of the playground. We have since October 24th had 3 days of an independent inspector on site. Every single little nut and bolt and every little piece of the playground has been very carefully inspected. And I know Ruby has received some reports. There are some things that still need to be taken care of, some minor things. So we are still waiting for final word between Titan and our buildings and grounds to get everything fully open. Once that happens, those fences will come down and we will put announcements out so that the community knows. And then hopefully when the students are back in school, we cannot wait to do a ribbon cutting in the spring and really celebrate. And it's really thanks to so many community members and then Senator Jacobs for the grant we received. But we had help from Anchor Marine with the jet ski raffle and Marston Equipment with a snowblower raffle. Western New York LLC, Western New York Services. The owner of that company was there all day long with buckets, Bobcat, I think is what you call it, spreading the mulch, as well as Wheel Find Automotive. He was there the entire day with his John Deere on the 24th. I don't know how we would have ever moved all of that mulch or that wood fiber had we not had that help. So it's really, thanks to a lot of community organizations that helped this to become a reality. And a huge thank you to the district and the board as well for your support along the way. 3 years from October was when we had our very first Monster Mash to begin raising funds. So when you consider the size of the playground and the cost of the playground, 3 years is pretty good time. So we're thrilled. The kids are excited. We can't wait to get final word and get those fences down and see kids playing. If you do drive by, you will see that there are still small mountains of engineered wood fiber left. That is deliberate. That has to go down once the wood fiber gets packed down, so that it was all very carefully calculated as far as how much has to be on that size playground. But we have to wait until it gets packed down a little bit before the remaining goes on. So that will be taken care of as soon as kids can get on there and play. So hopefully very, very soon you'll see those fences down and you'll see some little bodies on that playground playing and having fun. Thank you.
That is great news. Thank you very much. Public comment session, agenda items only. I think we may have some individuals signed up for that or the other public comment session. Brian, do you know if it's the agenda items only?
Yeah, I think it is. But Jude,
Okay.
can you give us an update on who signed up?
I think we have 2.
Yeah. Well, yep, I was waiting for Jude, but Ashley, if you know who they are, if you want to get started, that'd be great.
Right. I don't have the names, but I think that there's 2 individuals signed up. I'm not sure who signed up first and who's second. Jude, do you have the list of individuals and have they joined us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the 2 individuals are David Riley, which I see him here, and Kathy Rahill.
Okay. So you, at this time, we'll start with David first. At this time, public comments are invited from those individuals who desire to address the Board of Education on any topic which is on the agenda. Residents who have previously signed up to speak will be recognized by the president. When speaking, please identify yourself first. Speak clearly and loudly enough for everyone to hear you. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to no more than 3 minutes. Jude will start a timer. And please appoint a spokesperson if a concern is a group concern. And if necessary or desired, you may supplement your verbal presentation with reports. Personal comments toward a member of the community, staff, or Board of Education will not be considered appropriate. Okay, at this time, David, you can introduce yourself and begin your 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me start off by saying I'm a professor at Niagara University, and I've had the honor of working with a number of students that have come through the Grand Island schools. You're doing tremendous work. You're creating excellence in education, and I really think very highly of the students that come through, and I'm excited to be able to work with them whenever I have the opportunity. So I live at 2489 Whitehaven Road, a property that's adjacent to the school district's Bedell Road property. The school board has proposed a moratorium, the town board has proposed a moratorium on solar installations on the island. And I want to say, I think this is a very positive step for the residents and for our ecosystem. I support the idea of solar energy. And at the same time, I'm concerned about the mining required to produce the silicon used in PV and semiconductors. And I'm concerned about the projections that by 2030, outdated panels are expected to total 8 million metric tons of waste, which will grow tenfold by 2050 to exceed 10% of all electronic waste globally. But I also recognize that solar panels are responsible for no direct greenhouse gas emissions and low life cycle emissions and provide low cost power. With all of that said, I don't believe we should be using green space for solar installations. We do because it's easier than putting panels on buildings or over parking lots, which is not a good reason as far as I'm concerned. And I think it's important to note that many of the solar installations that are being considered for the island include a lease of 20 or more years. What this means is that we're making decisions for the next generation. And if we're going to do that, I think it's critically important that we do our job of reviewing all the details, setting strong guidelines of what is acceptable and what's not, and that we ensure that any solar installations include the most effective terms for the benefit of the town and the neighbors first and foremost. My wife and I are actively working with the Western New York Land Conservancy to preserve and protect our 33 acres, which lie directly to the south of the plot of land the school is considering for a solar installation. Our plan with the land preservation is to create trails open to the public and to enhance nature and environmental education through a nature center on our property. We invite the school district and the board to work with us and with the Western New York Land Conservancy because the land has tremendous habitat value, and there's an opportunity to move in a different direction from a solar installation to a land conservation easement or some other arrangement that would preserve the Bedell Road land and contribute to the protection of Grand Island's green space.
30 seconds.
I request that the school board postpone any decisions about the solar farm proposal until other options are considered in detail. The proposed moratorium by the town gives us all time to take a step back and really think about what we can contribute to future generations through our decisions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. And we have another person that is speaking this evening as well.
Yes, hi.
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. So at this time, Jude will be timing for 3 minutes. And if you can start by introducing yourself.
Absolutely.
That would be
So
great.
good evening. My name is Kathy Rahill, and I am a resident of Grand Island. My comments refer to the proposed solar farm project under consideration. I applaud the state's effort to decrease our reliance on fossil fuels and support the increase in our renewable energy capacity across the state. My concern, however, is the overall number of solar projects that have been approved on Grand Island in the past 2 years and the overuse of green space on Grand Island. Grand Island has already approved 4 solar array projects, 3 of which are operational and generate approximately 11 kilowatt hours of energy, the equivalent of powering around 2,200 homes on Grand Island. If you include the 2 newest projects under consideration, we will use over 100 acres of green space to generate the approximate energy use for 4,000 homes, which is about half the number of existing homes on Grand Island. According to an estimate by the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, the 2 existing substations on Grand Island can accommodate 20 megawatts of generated power for transmission and usage purposes. The projects already in operation or under consideration would constitute well over half that capacity. I would encourage members of the school board to consider capitalizing on the existing roof space available across all of our schools to support any proposed solar installation before considering the use of additional green space. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Jude, was that all as far as people having signed up?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any for the next section? Do you know for the?
There is not.
There's not. Okay. Thank you. All right. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. There is nothing this evening, so we will continue on to personnel instructional. If I could have a motion to approve instructional PI 1 through PI 3, please.
I'll motion.
And a second.
I will motion.
I'll second.
I can second.
Okay. Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Any
Aye.
abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And under personnel non-instructional, if I could have a motion to approve non-instructional PNI 1 through PNI 4, please.
I will make a motion.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And now we will move on to finance, unless there's anything for those sections. Move on to finance with Dr. Harris.
Okay. So the first thing on finance is obsolete equipment from IT. As always, anytime we declare something obsolete, I do ask them to check to see if we could possibly receive or salvage any value. It was expressed to us that if people weren't going to purchase it, so they are just asking that those items be declared obsolete. We also have obsolete buses on the agenda for tonight. I believe it is 4 buses. You will see the VIN and the mileage, as well as the years in the attachment component for the obsolete buses. And the next action item is budget transfers over $15,000. I do want to make reference that 2 of them, actually 3 of them, deal with the capital project. So it's just putting funds into the correct codes to properly be able to complete final cost reports. And the other one on here that I felt was important to reference is the unemployment purchase order. Unemployment is very high, especially given COVID and what is allowed to occur and how long people can stay on unemployment. One thing I did want to let the board know, I don't know if and everybody was aware of this, but there originally, when COVID happened, so I'd say maybe very beginning of summer, there was reference to districts being reimbursed for 50% of unemployment. They tried to say it was going to be a credit, so we stopped payment on the last check since we got the letter saying we only had to pay 50%, and we're sending another check for half of it because for where we currently stand in unemployment bills, that would be a credit that I know would carry from year over year over year, and I did not believe cash is king or queen. I think we'd prefer to keep cash on hand and just send them the correct amount. So that was corrected, but you will see an adjustment for those expenses. And if anybody wants a report in reference to unemployment, I can definitely provide that of where we usually are versus what's currently going on during COVID climate. Those are my 3 action items.
Questions?
It's Glenn. I would appreciate a report about the unemployment.
Yep.
Okay.
When I do the report, I'll also provide you with the letter referencing that we received about the 50%. But I'll put it all together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So if I could have a motion to approve finance A through C, please.
I'll motion.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0.
Ashley,
Yep.
that's gonna be 6. That's gonna be 6-0. Nicole,
Nicole,
I don't believe she's on.
Nicole's on.
I got back on. It's just
Nicole
going
is
in and
back.
out.
I just
Thank you,
don't know
Sue.
Did we have you with us for the personnel non-instructional or?
I was not on for that.
Okay, so non-instructional would be 6-0 then.
Yep.
What about personnel instructional, Nicole?
I was not on for that either.
Okay, so that would also be 6-0.
Welcome back, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You gotta love the internet on the island, right?
So for item D, I think we voted.
We did. We voted.
Okay. I didn't want to skip that
We
word.
voted
Okay. So for item D is the check warrants for October and November. E is an informational item, but we wanted to kind of explain it a little bit. There was the Music Boosters was receiving payment for individual students. I actually spoke with Sarah Russo for a lengthy bit about this and how it was functioning. Because it was payment for school-sponsored trips, and because of especially some of the hangups that happened due to COVID happening and people trying to receive refunds and the different roadblocks we were running into, we had decided that the proper way to do this practice, because it was funds that are designated for a specific student, was for the school district to receive the funds and record the funds properly. I think this probably goes back at least 8 years ago, maybe longer, where a decision was said, well, maybe the boosters should do it all. But I personally, for the way it should be accounted for, and because it is designated for a specific student, it should be the district that's handling that. There's no extra stipends or anything like that. It's just for informational purposes, so the board knew, and the boosters could carry on as they do. Okay. So I also have the revenue status report on here for September and October. As usual, for information, is the budget transfers under 15,000. And then the last item, the last item I have is in regards to Nexus Renewables Solar. I provided an attached short little PowerPoint that goes over some of the information that was provided to the board in the presentation. I know there was a question in reference to the economics. I did want to go over that very briefly. You will see that the first year of economics is a $2.1 million deficit due to the upfront cost that goes into the actual solar project. When you actually look at their information and how they show the economics, it would be 8 years before they start seeing any type of profit per se pertaining to the project. I did some rough estimates, and I'm thinking financially they probably have a financial gain around 2.62 million over the 25 years. As expressed at the last meeting, this item right now is just on there as informational, but in regards to the action in the near future, if the board chooses to go that way, just allows us to really start working out the logistics of the agreement and speaking with the state education department on them approving the fact that we could do a 25-year lease if that's the direction we go. I don't know if there's any questions on any of the items I mentioned.
Ruby, can you just go back over the financial information that will be received by the district per year, whether we take it as a straight out payment or if we take it as a reduction in our expenses? Can you just go back over that from last week just so we have it again?
Yes. So you're referencing the 127,000 that they're saying we would be receiving? Yeah. Or which part are you referencing?
Yeah,
okay.
The 100 is 137, 127, just to kind of go over that one more time. Thanks.
Okay, so there are two ways in which you can move forward. There might be more, but the two ways that we have been looking in is the way of a pilot or the way of actually receiving credits. In this presentation, it is shown as a little bit of both. We are working, or I've had side discussions with our legal team just to see how each way benefits us or could not benefit us. One of the things that has came up, we all know we have the tax cap. It is here to stay, and I have said it before, I finally accept that it's here to stay, I guess. But we have the tax cap, and your pilots impact your tax cap formula. Once you sign and agree to receive a pilot, you're locked into that. So that was the reason why I wanted to sit and have the discussion of what are the other options. You always have the option to not go up to the tax levy limit, but I did not want us to be locked out of receiving those revenues if needed in the future, especially given the current climate. So as always, we discussed during budget season what we're looking at revenue wise, what the board feels is the best for the community, and I'd like to keep that as that type of discussion instead of it automatically being a pilot in the amount of 137,000 is impacting the formula.
Sorry, I muted. Thank you.
Okay. If the board doesn't have any questions in reference to anything I mentioned or in reference to solar, I would like to bring it back to the board for the next meeting as an action item, and then you can give guidance on how you would like us to move forward.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to special education with Cheryl Cardone.
Hi, I just have two quick action items tonight. We are continuing on with our CSC and our CPSC meetings virtually. They still are going very well. So if I could have approval for both of those program recommendations, please.
Okay.
I'll motion.
And a second?
I can second.
I'll second.
Jake can second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you very much.
We have nothing under policy, so that brings us to the superintendent's report with Dr. Graham.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. And for those people watching our live stream, thank you for your interest in our district. And for those who watch afterwards, I also thank you. Tonight, under the superintendent's report, we're going to talk about two things. A COVID-19 update and an update on the reopening of schools. I do want to share with you just a couple slides or some pictures. Let me open that up for a moment. All right. Ashley, could you let me know when this slide is visible?
Sure, we can see it.
Okay,
Good.
great. It is a little blurry, so I apologize. I took a screenshot of Governor Cuomo's presentation from Friday, and I thought I would include it in my presentation today. So as you can see, or maybe you've heard through local news or state news or national news, there really is an overwhelming amount of data to show that schools are a safe place for teaching and learning to occur during this pandemic. In Friday's press conference by Governor Cuomo, he displayed this slide regarding how and where the virus is spreading through community spread. This slide indicates that there are 74% of the incidents of transmission occurring through small household or social gatherings. So I thought it would be important to share his data with you. It is a little blurry, but here it says 73.8%. Also on here is listed educational employees, and that's listed as 1.5%. And then further down, you'll see elementary school student, and that's 0.5%. High school student, 0.5%. And for some reason, at the middle school, it's even lower, okay, 0.19. So the governor used this slide in his presentation to really try to influence people as we move into the holiday season to be very, very cautious as we gather and celebrate the season in these household or social gatherings. But of course, I wanted to use it as a reference point to let the community know why we keep saying that schools are safe. This next chart is what I've been sharing with the board over the last few board meetings. This indicates the week-to-week net change in positive cases on the entire island, not just our district, but the entire island. So as you can see on September 4th, there was 152 individuals on Grand Island since last March that had become positive with COVID-19. But as you can see on September 11th, it went up by 4, and then the 18th, another 3, and then the 25th, another 3. So the net percent increases have been pretty low. For whatever reason, on October 2nd, it jumped 7%, but then went down to 2.3%, 2.2%, and 2.7%. And then at the end of October, it jumped 11 cases or 5%. And then as you can see, November 6th, 25 new cases or 12%, 32 new cases or 14%, 60 new cases, 66, 78. And then Friday, December 11th, there were 135. Now, please understand that from November 30th to December 11th is much longer than a week, but I did include that in this chart because that was the last time I had a chance to update it. It's my understanding that this number of 594 cases is even larger, but I will update my chart at the end of this week. This is a more visual look at the change from week to week. And as you can see, it's still pretty high here on the island. Today in the governor's press conference, he used this slide just to talk about the regions of the state. Western New York is at a 6.9% positivity rate for the entire Western New York area. Finger Lakes at 8, Central New York at 7, Mohawk Valley at 8. And then you can see Southern Tiers small, North Country is small, Long Island at 5%, Mid-Hudson at 6%. So I just wanted to share that with you kind of as a preface to this COVID-19 update that I'm providing today, but also having the opportunity to talk to you about a timeline that we've been following to prepare for reopening and to prepare for testing students in our school, faculty, and staff in our school district. So I do want to share with you, and I know you're already aware of this, but on November 13th, Cheryl Cardone applied for the district's limited service laboratory license. Also, at our board workshop on the 23rd, we talked about the hybrid model and the 100% virtual model. And on the 24th, the Erie Niagara School Superintendents Association wrote a letter to the governor advocating for schools to be reopened in the orange cluster with different testing requirements. As a group of superintendents, we advocated for students not to be excluded from the hybrid in-person learning if their parents did not provide consent. So our letter to the governor advocated that we not be forced to exclude students. We also advocated for a more manageable testing system in the orange or red clusters, and we're proud to know that that letter did get into the hands of the governor's office and may have been some of the voices that his team used to make adjustments to the orange and red testing requirements. So I want to also share some additional information that we put in our letter to the governor. The first thing that we shared was schools are safe. As of the writing of the letter that we sent to the governor, there is zero evidence in Erie County Public Schools of transmission of the virus in our schools. And we believe it's due in large part to either a district being 100% remote or the hybrid model, of course, which automatically promotes social distancing. Also included is the fact that our students, faculty, and staff are compliant with mask and face covering requirements, hand hygiene, and following other non-pharmaceutical interventions to mitigate the risk of spread. In our district, of course, the board knows that we added plastic barriers on student desks and student work tables and cafeteria tables, and we've also purchased air purifiers for every classroom. In our letter to the governor, we also shared that young people who are impoverished are denied the earliest access to nutritional breakfast and lunch if we're 100% remote. While we do provide meal services to families when we're remote, these meals are much more readily available when provided on site in our hybrid model. We also indicated that young people are without important on-demand mental and emotional health support if they're home 100% of the time. Schools offer children and families the most readily accessible and immediate access to mental health and professionals in our school system on a daily basis. And by maintaining this 100% remote model interrupts that on-demand connection for our kids. Also, when students are learning in full remote setting, children who may suffer from abuse and neglect lose their one and only safe place when we are in that 100% remote for all kids. Also, school-based adults who are most likely to report abuse and neglect are best able to do so when we actually have the students in our physical care. Furthermore, student isolation for some increases with respect to exacerbating symptoms of anxiety and depression for some of our students. And some of our students are more likely to engage in high-risk behaviors such as alcohol and drug abuse. And finally, in our letter, we focused on students who are more likely to consider self-harm and self-harming behaviors when they are feeling depressed or isolated from their peers. So we're very pleased that our voices here in Western New York were listened to. And on December 4th, the governor released new guidance for testing within the Microcluster Action Initiative. And this update, the new guidance indicates that schools located in a geographic area designated as an orange zone must test 20% of our students, faculty, and staff over 4 weeks, which is a significant change from the old guidance, which said we had to test students, faculty, and staff. We had to test 100% of students, faculty, and staff before the kids before the kids could come to school, or before the kids could come to school. So I apologize for that. So the new guidance also indicates that if this area was changed from orange to red, then we must test 30% of our students, faculty, and staff over a 4-week period of time. Also, in this new guidance, it indicates that if random sampling of tests generates 9 or more positive cases, then the school will be required to return to full remote instruction. So I can share with the board that we still need additional information to fully comprehend that, meaning that we're not sure how long the school would have to be in full remote if we had 9 or more cases. So we still need a little bit more information from the state. I'm going to just stop there because I just shared a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions from what I've shared so far?
Brian, can I just ask how many of our students?
Go ahead, Nicole, and then we'll go to Glenn.
Okay, sorry, there's a delay, I think. How many of our students have volunteered to be tested, or what % have volunteered, staff and students, to actually be tested?
Yeah, great question. So when we initially sent out a survey based on the old guidance, there was 60% of our families saying that they would provide consent. There was another 7 or 8% who were maybes, and then like 30 to 35% were no's. Okay. Glenn?
It is Jay.
Jay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. With the delay. So Brian, if a student or a faculty or staff is tested off-site, can that data be included in our 20%? And if so, how do we communicate that with the district so that they know they're tested off-site?
Okay, that's a great question. I'll have to get back with you, Jay. And Cheryl, I know you're listening. If you already know the answer, please feel free to pop in there. And if not, we'll research that.
So Jay, at this time, because we have our limited service laboratory, we have to upload all of our results into this eClear system. So the eClear system, the way that Robin Quitech, thank goodness, is helping us with, she's setting it up. But what happens is that because we could only apply for the Binax Now tests. That's the only data that we can upload since we're that limited service laboratory, and that, we had to tell them what kind of tests we're using. So right now they're not letting us bring outside results in because we can't upload them to our eClear system. People absolutely can bring them in, but it's not going to count towards that 20 or 30% at this point in time.
Okay, I know there was a
So can I ask a
today?
Brian,
Sure.
Hold on, Glenn, you're like fourth or fifth in line.
Show me.
Nicole, myself, Ashley, and then you.
Just show me just a quick thumbs up.
I have Spectrum, so it's in and out.
We got to do the raise hand thing.
My internet connection. Two questions.
Glenn. Glenn.
Nicole,
Ashley was speaking and Nicole was speaking. You gotta wait.
Okay, Nicole.
Okay, I will wait.
Nicole, Sue, me, Glenn.
Oh,
go ahead,
thank
Nicole.
So to follow up with that, if a student wants to be tested, are we able to just test them if a parent wants a student to be tested? Maybe someone else in the house has it and they would go outside instead of them going outside. Could we have them come inside to count their test, or do we just want them to go outside?
Brian, Cheryl, why don't you start and then I'll fill in if there's anything.
So right now, with the rules the way that they are, and the way that we set up testing to make sure that everybody's safe, we are random testing asymptomatic people. Just because, when we have our 4 stations set up tomorrow, it would be really difficult to, yes, we're going to have barriers and proper PPE and, things like that. But to bring in people that we suspect of having or that are symptomatic would be, really hard to get them around all of the other people that will be testing, including our nurses and athletic trainer.
So I guess my question was kind of if someone else is quarantined because they may have been around someone else and they are asymptomatic, could they test, or are we just saying go test somewhere else and we're not going to use their test results? I just want to be clear.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of different
yes,
things going on.
Yes, it's random and it's truly are asymptomatic. No tracing. What we are told that we have to do.
Okay, I just want to make that clear. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think Sue, you're next.
You know what, Brian, I don't know if this is the time to discuss this, but I know there was some concern with our community members about asking for consent for our students to test. And, clearly and obviously we have to have consent before we can issue a test on a student. But do you want to speak to that at all for clarification or?
Yeah, sure. So we absolutely need consent, and we would never test anybody without consent. So that's number one. Number two, as a group of superintendents, we advocated with the governor's office not to exclude any child whose parent did not give consent. So we believe that children should be here. If there is a parent who is opposed to having their child tested for whatever reason, we want to honor that to the extent possible. We also recognize that we need people to provide consent. So when Nicole asked her original question, the early data that we have say that at least 60%, if not more, will provide that consent for us. Today I sent out a opportunity for parents to sign up for 42 slots to be tested this Wednesday in our high school gymnasium. And it was done, people filled out those slots probably within 10 minutes. And I'm not exaggerating. So, and when we opened up the opportunity for faculty, staff, and employees to be tested tomorrow, I sent that out in the evening, and by 7 a.m., all 72 slots were filled. So the early indication is that parents are going to want their children to be tested, employees want to be tested, and we're not concerned yet that we won't have enough people to test. Does that help, Sue?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we had to have consent. There was just some misinformation out in the community. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have consent not only for our students, but we also have to have consent for our faculty and staff as well. So it's everybody has to have consent.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Good. And I think, Ashley, you had a question.
Yes, there was a press conference today. I know that Governor Cuomo held up a PowerPoint slide for a few seconds, I think 20 or 30 seconds. I just wondered if you happen to see that, if anything has changed from what we know now, if you caught that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Cheryl came in and interrupted me during, no, I'm just kidding.
It's
I
always
was,
teaching, so
I was
that's what
watching. I was watching the press conference. So a lot of the slides you'll see, like the ones I showed you, I literally take a picture of it with my phone. So I have it. I did miss some of the governor's presentation, but I do have some new information under my superintendent's report to share regarding the changes in the definition or the operational definition of yellow, red, and orange. So I can share that today.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then Glenn had a question.
Yep.
But I think I just saw that he left.
I just saw him.
Yeah, he's probably, he's back.
He's back.
He's back? Okay.
Okay, Glenn, you're up.
He's muted.
That's okay.
Glenn, you're muted.
There we go. Go ahead, Glenn. There he is. Hello. Go ahead. You're up.
Looking for me? So two things. One is that well, I mean, I have stated repeatedly, I think that having kids in schools is a good idea, right? Is there any, from a staff perspective, et cetera, can you explain whether there's been any feedback in that regard?
So just to clarify, you want to know if I've received any feedback on the importance of the in-person instruction?
Well, no, I think in-person instruction is good, right?
Yes, I agree. I would say this. I would say that our number one goal has always been to have children here in school for in-person teaching and learning. And I'll give you a couple examples. I've been blessed to watch my son do both, right? To be here in person and to be home, for several days with in-person or with virtual instruction. And from my perspective as a dad, I am thrilled to see that my son is compliant, that he participates. He's doing lunges in the dining room for physical education and jumping jacks. So I think that there is a large majority of children in our school system that are compliant and engage and participate to the extent possible in the virtual world. So we already know that for like a critical mass of children, they're going to be okay. It's not great, but they're going to be okay. My message has always been that we need to open as quickly as possible for those children who are dependent, that they're school dependent, right? They're dependent on us for meals. They're dependent on us to make sure they're safe. They're dependent on us for structure, for consistency, right, for love, right? For food, or I already mentioned food, for clothing. We service over 2,800 students, and not everybody has the same experience as our children maybe here today, in this meeting. So first and foremost, I'm desperate to get those children back so that we can continue to provide them the things that they need because they're school dependent. And then everybody else we want to, of course, bring back, because we know that even a child who's gifted needs their teacher and needs the opportunity to ask a question and to get the information. Or we know that children, no matter what age, do better when they can think, pair, share with the person next to them, because I'm an introvert and my partner's an extrovert. And when I talk to my extrovert, I can process what that extrovert is saying because the teacher just posed a wonderfully crafted essential question, but this extrovert will just talk aloud while I process, and then together we'll come up with an excellent result. That's very hard to do in a virtual world. So I don't know if I've answered your question, Glenn, but those are the thoughts that I have with respect to being able to provide the best instructional strategies, even in hybrid, for all kids, who need us every day.
Thank you.
Sure. So if it's okay, I'm going to go back to just my notes as I present to you. And thank you. I think, pausing every now and then to ask questions will be helpful throughout this timeline that I'm sharing with you. So we did get our limited service laboratory license on December 4th. And at the same time, we needed that license to order our tests. So Cheryl has the license and she immediately pulls the trigger on ordering the tests. Not only did she have to order the test, but on December 7th, she had to apply for access to the New York State Department of Health system, their database called eClares. So she applied for that on December 7th. By the way, all these things that she's doing is being guided by our Dr. Ellenfield, our medical director. We received over 1,000 rapid tests, the Binax Now rapid test for COVID-19 on December 9th. On December 11th, we received access to the eClaire system, which was last Friday. And I want to thank Robin Kwiatek and Sue Hall, who are working together to make sure that that we're ready to rock and roll tomorrow as we begin inputting the results of testing for employees, faculty, and staff. Additionally, I want to thank Bryn Rowley, who is a 3rd grade student at Hughes Road Elementary School. She came in with her mom on Friday to do a 2-minute introduction and demonstration of the Binax Now test. And with your permission, I'd like to show all of you this 2-minute video. Let me just pull that up. Ashley, just let me know when you can see this for me.
Yep, it's there.
All right, thank you. All right, so here is Erin Rowley, 3rd grader from Hughes.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Grant. I'm here with Bryn Rowley. Bryn just turned 18 years old and driver's license. And she's here to help show the whole community what it's like to have a Binax Now rapid test to see if we're sick. And Bryn, I am so proud of you that you're here today. You are a great volunteer. Can we do an elbow bump? Awesome. All right. So we are here with Bryn's mom and brother, and also Mr. Green, who is going to do the test. Mr. Green, is there anything you'd like to say about this test?
Hello. It's very simple and painless for everybody involved. It'll be very easy for everybody.
All right. Well, Bryn, this is Mr. Green. If you, Mr. Green, you can start.
Okay. What we're all going to do? Don't move it. Slide the mask down just a little bit. Take a little bit, doesn't it? Perfect.
Oh my goodness. Hey, you know what? I think Bryn needs a big round of applause. All right, great job. Another elbow bump. And would you like to drive my car home? No. Oh, you're not 18. You're 8. Right. What school do you go to? Hughes Road Elementary School. So maybe some kids from Hughes will see this video and feel brave when they come to get tested too. Do you think that will happen? Me too. Well, I'm very, very proud of you, Bryn, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. All right. Thank you very much.
Good. All right, thank you. So I did want to share that with you. We know that video, has been sent to all of our families. I was talking to Robin today. She thinks that it has hit about 1,000 views so far. So we hope that video is helpful to our families and helpful to any child who sees it so that they feel comfortable when they're tested in the future. I do want to share with you that, of course, today our nurses were trained. They're amazing nurses, and Jeff Green and all of our nurses work together on the training of the COVID-19 Binax Now tests. Tomorrow, we will be testing approximately 68 to 72 adult employees And all of that testing will occur in our high school gymnasium. On Wednesday, we created 42 slots for parents to RSVP for appointments, and those slots filled up, like I mentioned earlier, within about 10 or 15 minutes. It was amazing how quickly they filled up. So seeing as that there was an interest, we will probably look to do that again in the future. Thursday and Friday, we will have more opportunity for employees to be tested. And then we'll look at even more opportunities to continue that the week before Christmas. It's one thing that's really important for me to share with the board is that St. Stephen's is looking for us to help them as well. So we think we can help them. We will be looking at providing them weekly support of 12 students, faculty, and staff, probably on Wednesdays and probably led by Jeff Green, starting December 23rd. Of course, we're set to reopen schools on January 4th and continue the administration of the Buy Next Now testing. It's important for the board to know that on a daily basis, of course, we're trying to hit 20% of all students, faculty, and staff in each building. For the high school, that means 12 rapid tests a day. At the middle school, it means 8 rapid tests a day. At Huth and Sidway, it's 6, and at Kegavine, it's 5. So, of course, we could do more so that we're not, maybe take a day off from testing. But if we break it down by day and do that for 4 weeks, we will hit our 20% our 20% quota. So I'll just stop there to see if the board has any questions. Okay, sorry. Okay, and I was stuck on a different screen, so okay. So I'm almost done. Let me just go back to my notes again. So of course, in summary, we believe schools are safe. Students and staff have faithfully followed the safety protocols proven to limit the spread of COVID-19. And as a result, virus transmission is far lower in schools than in other settings. We believe that school-age children need to be in school for the social emotional impact associated with it. And we believe that being able to provide that hybrid in-person teaching and learning will help those children in particular. At this time, I'm going to ask Cheryl to share with the board the new contact tracing and quarantine protocols that were just announced by the Erie County Department of Health last Friday.
All right. So just a little bit of background. Back when we first started contract tracing in the schools, rule was anybody that was exposed to someone for 60 minutes or more. So that would mean that if somebody in the middle school had a class for 40 minutes in English, but then didn't have a class with any other child, this would be the positive individual, then it would be we would not submit that name to the Department of Health. However, if that child who tested positive had contact with somebody in math and in English, that would be a total of 80 minutes, then those were the people that we would have to submit. So as you can only guess, and I think all of you saw Brian's emails, there were times that we were quarantining 10 or 11 students, plus a teacher, co-teacher, teacher aide, etc. Not only did it complicate things for the schools, but it also backed up the Erie County Health Department, whereas, there were days that I couldn't get through to that line, sometimes 3, because they were just quarantining so many people. The recent guidance, though, has changed to say that unless so if I'm a positive individual, if I have had contact with somebody 10 minutes or more with less than 6 feet of distance, that's when we now have to report. So if you look at it, really the only person that you would be reporting, because according to CDC guidelines, we're not allowed to be less than 6 feet apart. So if I'm in a hybrid classroom and I test positive, the teacher and all of my classmates should be 6 feet away from me. And not only are they 6 feet away from me, but everybody has a mask, everybody has a barrier, you know, and then you have those limited class sizes. And this would include cafeteria, phys ed, you know, all of the classes, etc. So one of the things that did concern me, and I do have a meeting on Wednesday, is I know our speech, our OT, and our PT are doing individual sessions. So I need to reinforce with them again that make sure that you are, you know, during your 30-minute sessions, you are maintaining that 6 feet of distance so that we're not contract tracing, you know, a child who's test positive with any of our adults. So this paperwork wise, et cetera, will alleviate some of the work that has been put on our administrative staff, you know, plus our parents and the Department of Health. When I talked to Dr. Lauren Nicholas about this on Friday, she did say that the reason for the change is that they really have not found that the schools are the problem. There's a very, very, very low rate of transmission at the school level, that, you know, really the kids are not getting, if they're testing positive, it's not from school. It's either from contact outside of the district, or, you know, and I believe the statistics is up to now 70% of these cases are from close contact and at home. So very excited that this new guidance has come out, and we will be talking about it at our admin meeting tomorrow that we have.
Cheryl, can I just ask you a question? So sure. based on what you said, that means basically none of our students will be in quarantine from being with other students as of right now, based on that, correct?
You know what, that is what we're hoping for, because we have that 6 feet of distance. Now, if there's some case where there's a child that was, you know, less than 6 feet for 10 minutes, then, you know, then we would have to do it, you know, then we'd have to be, you know, transparent and report that. But at this point in time, there really is no reason to be closer than 6 feet to one another, because CDC guidelines and those rules.
So generally speaking, basically based on classrooms, no one will have to quarantine if someone else is positive.
Yep, just the positive individual.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to leave another, you know, few seconds if you have a question for Cheryl about that news. It's big news. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yep.
So, Ashley, you had mentioned if there were any new announcements by the governor today. I did get some information at the end of today that I want to share with the board. It's about the changing metrics of yellow, orange, and red zones. Please understand that I just got this information. We still need to meet about it as a group of superintendents, but I'll share with you what I know as of today. So under red zone, a red zone will be implemented in a region where hospital capacity is within 21 days of reaching 90% capacity. And that's even after the cancellation of elective procedures and a 50% increase in bed capacity. So there's a lot of information there. It needs to be broken down and processed, but it seems as though, you know, they're adding this metric of hospitalization capacity to determine if a community or a zip code goes into red zone. For orange zone, it's a geographic area that is eligible to enter into orange if it has 4% positivity rate over 7-day average, which is calculated over 10 days. So that calculation is then compared to the region that has reached 85% hospital capacity. There's other information. Alternatively, a geographic area may also become an orange zone if the State Department of Health determines the area or region's rate of hospital admissions is unacceptably high and a zone designation is appropriate to control the rate of growth. So there's some new language there that we need to process. And then for yellow, the geographic area is eligible to be yellow if it has a 3% positivity rate over a 7-day average, which is calculated throughout 10 days. And it is in the top, and if that region is in the top 10% in the state for hospital admission per capita over the past week, and is experiencing week over week growth in daily admissions. So I think as a group of superintendents, we need to be able to process that a little bit more and ask some questions. But that's a new way for the state to maybe put a region or a zip code into yellow, orange, or red. So I'll just stop there. That concludes the information that I wanted to share tonight. Do we have any additional questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ashley.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to the Board of Education report. The New York State retention and disposition schedule. Could I have a motion to approve report A, please?
A motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And then we have our hybrid and virtual model discussion.
Yep, thank you.
I just wanted to, I can start by saying thank you and commending the teachers on doing a great job with the virtual schedule. I've heard a lot of positive comments about the virtual instruction since we began. We have in-person instruction, and preferably we'd like to have 5 days in class. However, I think that the virtual model has been going along smoothly, and I just wanted to thank everyone who made that possible, from the administrators to working on the schedules to the teachers who have been really, in my opinion, I know from seeing my daughter a little bit online, knocking it out of the ballpark. So thank you.
You're welcome. And if it's okay with the board, I've asked the principals to speak a little bit about engagement during the 100% virtual model. And if it's okay, we'll start with Denise.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Graham. Ashley, you hit the nail right on the head. These teachers are working so incredibly hard. I've had the pleasure of watching a few online lessons, and engagement is difficult. It's difficult with 5-year-olds, no matter what model of teaching you're using. But online, it is difficult, but they have learned how to make it even more effective by cutting things down in smaller increments, keeping the kids involved with the lesson, the read alouds, the phonics lessons, the math lessons, stopping and taking a quick brain break, even if it's just, doing some jumping jacks or something like that for a few minutes, and then bringing them back. Using those document cameras. First lesson I watched, I wondered why I saw 2 initials for the teacher, and I was afraid she was going to get this terrible feedback, but one is for the document camera and one is for the teacher to see the children on the screen and get the children to see her on the screen. And I've also heard them really talking to the kids, especially now that this is so much more comfortable, as if they were right in front of them. Why are you standing on that chair? You need to be sitting in that chair. And the kids are responding, and the parents are responding. And I've worked a little bit with the Just for Kids over at Eco Island to try to help them get the kids more engaged, and it's working very, very well. The teachers have actually, said this time around, this second wave here of this, that it's nice seeing the kids 5 days a week. While we miss in person, seeing them 5 days a week and being able to say, we did this yesterday, we're doing this today, has been something that they have appreciated as well as parents. So they're working very, very hard, but they are figuring out how to make this work. And even the 5-year-olds, it's amazing the way that they can navigate the technology. They're muting and unmuting themselves. They know not to turn their cameras off, and they're responding very positively to the teachers. So it's a very pleasant surprise, and I'm very, very proud of everyone, the teachers and the children. They're doing a great job.
Thanks, Denise. Does anybody have any questions for Denise? All right. Let's move on. Maybe Felicia, could you pick up regarding engagement at Kegabyne?
Hi, everyone. The engagement and attendance at Kegabyne has been excellent. The teachers are working extremely hard, and the kids are as well. The students know when they get on their meets that they're expected to have their cameras on. They get to their live meets on time as best as they can, and they have their materials with them and are giving their best efforts. The teachers are really working on doing similar routines to mirror their in-person instruction. So they start off with those morning meetings, and they have their activities to start the day. They're doing short, structured mini lessons, and this way the kids know when the end is coming for their break. They're working in the breakout sessions that we have on Google Meets, and it's allowing them to be able to complete the assignments with them. They're really enjoying using the use of the whiteboards. They're having Jamboard to incorporate interactive activities. They're doing movement. They're using the icons to have the kids raise their hand to be able to participate and take turns in reading. They use the chat box feature, and they're doing their checks for understanding. So if it's a fist of 5 or their thumbs up, they're all doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Good. Any questions for Felicia? All right. Let's transition to Max.
Yes, thank you. The Youth Road teachers are doing a fantastic job keeping the level of engagement up. One of the things I've been impressed with is their level of trying to incorporate some of the coping techniques and the social skills within this virtual world. So they're doing games and things like that to keep the interaction going between the kids, having some fun with it. I'm impressed with a couple teachers. They're doing lunch with the teacher, so they'll just chat for their lunchtime together, and they'll talk with each other. Instead of doing anything academic, they'll just have a conversation with each other and just unwind in a way. So it gives the kids a chance to even socialize, I know, in the virtual world, but it's still, I guess you can say, socialization. Besides doing all of the tools that Google platform provides, like Google Slides and Forms and Epic and Scholastic and Raz Kids, they use all of those things. But I've been impressed with the teacher's ability to create an environment that's structured enough that keeps the engagement going and allowing each of the children the ability to participate. So they're not just passively listening. The teachers are creating strategies to make sure that every child is providing something, so they're just not staring at the screen, which I think is really important. And like Felicia had said before, the teachers are using movement, they're using token boards, reward systems, even inside of the virtual world. But it's that motivating factor that the teachers utilize that keeps the kids engaged enough to want to keep focused. And they are chunking it. They're making it accommodating to that motivational piece. So yeah, the teachers they've really surprised me in how well they've well, actually, they haven't surprised me. I knew they could do it, of course, but they've done such a great job getting accustomed to the technology, but harnessing the energy of the technology and utilizing it in the virtual world, and having the everyday interaction with their kids has really benefited over the past, week or so.
That's great. Thank you, Max. Any questions for Max?
No, just a comment that I've heard that from quite a few parents is the everyday contact with teachers has been great for their kids, and they've really liked that aspect of the remote, is that they have access to the teacher, more regularly than the hybrid model.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Max. Let's transition to John.
Thanks, Doug. I can echo what all of my colleagues have said so far about engagement, and engagement is important whether we're virtual or not. But Mrs. Dreher, you touched on a really good point that has often come up over the last couple of weeks, especially with our teachers. I know you mentioned parents the teachers have loved having the entire class together all at once. The kids who chose to be 100% remote and the kids who have chosen to be hybrid. And I've heard countless times, Adam, my assistant principal, has heard countless times about how good it is to have the entire class together and working as one. You know, engagement, we've done a few things just to not repeat what my colleagues have said so far, but we're finding that engagement, there's another level to engagement other than what you have happening inside the classroom. It's what's happening outside the classroom. I'm not only proud of what the teachers have done with their instructional technology, but I'm also very proud of the amount of ways that our teachers and teaching assistants have gone above and beyond to reach the kids on their own personal time. I have one teaching assistant right now who probably has 10 Google Meets outside of her schedule each week to give increased contact time with her students. Andy Ginsberg, I'll mention him right now. We've used him in so many different ways at the middle school. He's meeting with kids daily. He's calling kids. He's talking with their parents frequently if they're getting a little bit behind in their schoolwork, as well as other teachers are using some extra time available, you know, that they have to engage our students. So, you know, we're doing an awful lot of things with instructional technology. We've also moved some things around. Like I know at the very beginning of the school year, it wasn't a popular idea to not buy agendas, which we would normally buy. We rather put all that money into buying every single student in the school a whiteboard, so that whether they were remote or hybrid, they could use that whiteboard, you know, on their screen when it was necessary. I want to thank the district for purchasing as many document cameras as we could, as Denise had clearly stated, how important that was for us to go forward with that. And really, honestly, we're trying to grab as much training in instructional technology as we possibly can. It was great to have Melanie Kitchen, district resident, also works for BOE's as a staff developer, did a great job training us in 4 different models on November 2nd. And I think, you know, as much as we can get support with that, it's awesome. Everyone's working really hard. And it's always a work in progress. We're always trying to evolve and make it the best it possibly can be.
That's great. Thanks, John. Any questions for John? All right. Thank you very much. And I think we'll transition over to Mr. Loria now.
Thank you. Yes, I know, Dr. Graham, you had asked us to share a little bit because we did put out a student survey last Tuesday regarding some of our students' feedback on some of the things that they saw in our virtual model. I'll reiterate a lot of the things that many of you have said, in that student engagement has been a challenge, but that many of our teachers are meeting that challenge. I think the unique nature of our high school is that many of our students are still being held to the same Regent standards that they have been held to in the past years, with a lot less instructional time for the duration of our hybrid. I know many of our teachers gave us positive feedback during the virtual learning because they could have more time with their kids. But I do want to show you some of the results of this survey. Dr. Graham, that's what you'd like us to do, right? So I'm going to present my screen. And I do want to share some of the feedback. I know that Hillary is going to talk a little bit first about some of the mental health feedback from some of our students. And what I will also do is talk a little bit about some of the instructional feedback. And then Karen's going to briefly tell you what we're doing to try to target some of our disengaged students. So can everyone see?
Yeah, it's starting to focus right now. There,
Okay.
we got it.
Okay, so this survey again was conducted last Tuesday on the 8th. I'm going to turn it over to Hillary first. This first slide just gives you a breakdown of which grade levels responded. I don't know how well you can see it, but there is a fairly even distribution. The biggest chunk is our yellow, is our 11th graders. And then in each of them, there was about a 20 to 25% for the other grades. So we had slightly more 11th grade students respond to this. Hillary?
And so overall, we had a little over half of our student body participate in the survey, which was good. I think that does speak to our engagement that we'll talk about in a little bit, though, as well. So we asked our students some questions in accord with our social emotional reopening plans. We wanted to get a little bit of feedback now about how our students are doing with their mood and their overall mental health, and to make sure that we are identifying as our instructional support team those students that we need to reach out to and support during this virtual learning model. So we asked our students, and we did provide them a graphic. So you'll see the question pertains to colors, which color range are students in. And we had a variety of different descriptors within a graphic that they could select. And when you're looking at this graph, what you'll see is roughly 57% of our students did identify that they are feeling that they have a positive mood right now. So that would be the red and the blue chunk. If you look at the green and the yellow, we had students identifying a negative mood at about 43% of our students who responded to this. In this next graphic, it breaks it down a little bit further, and you might have a little bit of difficulty seeing. But in this graphic, it's again having our students think about the last week, and we asked them to choose which descriptors most closely describe how they had been feeling. And what you'll find is, again, for the most part, our students identified words that related to positive mood attributes. But it's interesting to note that those who identified positive mood did indicate that they also were on the end of lower energy spectrum. So some of those words would pertain to feeling calm and relaxed and content. That was a very large group who identified that category, as well as satisfied, chill, or secure. Within the negative mood categories, you'll see that, again, there's a fair number of students who identified feeling lower mood symptoms, negative mood, and lower energy descriptors as well. So there were a large number, about 91 students, who identified feeling discouraged and sad and exhausted. And then a fairly large number as well who identified feeling irritated, worried, or anxious, and angry, frustrated, and stressed. Now, we did ask students specifically to identify whether they felt they needed to speak to somebody about their mood. And we did have 5 students request that. So we did have our counseling team, our social worker, and our school psychologist. They reached out immediately to those students and had some conversations, and were able to link them with services through our Family Support Service Center, which was awesome. And then we had 8 students who you will see identified the descriptors of feeling depressed and hopeless. And again, those students we were able to reach out to immediately, and our counseling team and social worker and school psychologists were able to make some referrals and speak with their parents, and also get them the supports that they need. So the feedback was optional for the students, but we did ask if they could share with us or describe why they might be feeling the way they're feeling, whether it be positive or feeling a little bit more negative in their mood. And regardless of whether they identified positive or negative mood symptoms, it was overwhelmingly commented just on the frustration and the difficulty that our students are feeling at the high school level with being online all day. In our hybrid model, our students really weren't used to being online for synchronous instruction for the entirety of the school day. And it seems that quite a few of our students seem to be reporting that they are feeling slightly stressed over this, that they're having some difficulty adjusting back into, I guess, what I would call a more traditional school day for a full day. We also had a lot of students identifying the struggles that they're feeling with that loss of human face-to-face interaction with both their teachers and their classmates. And I think that's to be expected given the situation. And then again, we had a number of students identifying that their source of stressor, their source of their mood and frustration is difficulty trying to manage their schoolwork and the workload, in addition to being fully synchronous during their traditional school day times. So I'll let Mr. Loria now comment on some of the academic and instructional aspects that we asked our students about.
Oh, here he comes. He must have got kicked off. Hi, Mike. Hillary just passed it off to you.
That's great. Sorry, I was going to ask if anyone had questions for Hillary before I took a stab at the next part, which is going to be more instructionally based. If anyone had any questions on the mental health stuff. Okay, in that case, I'm going to move on and I'm going to try to present again real quick. The next part of our survey turned more towards the instructional components. And what you're going to see is that some of these questions are very basic and I'll go through them quickly. But this question asked our students to indicate how they felt about our participation in synchronous live classes and how often they were participating. So luckily, it shows that about 89% of our students are logging into all of their synchronous classes. The red is about 9.7%, which represents that students are logging into most of their synchronous classes. And then the smaller chunks are representative of students who are not logging in. Now, keep in mind that of the 494 students who responded, it's probably unlikely that those who responded would be the kids who are not logging in, because the kids who are not logging in probably didn't get the survey through their email. So that's important to recognize. But we do feel that most of our students are participating, and our teachers have said that during they're very surprised with how many students are participating using this remote model. It's larger participation than they had saw before the remote learning model. The next question was to tell us about your assignment completion for your classes, and the blue chunk represents about 67% of our students saying that they're completing all of their assignments, and the other 28% in red saying that they're completing most. So the good news is overall, it does show that most of our students are completing most of their assignments, and then there's a chunk of yellow, much smaller chunk of yellow, showing that maybe they're not as participative and engaged as the others. But the good news, as I said, is that it's a small percent. We also asked our students to tell us about the number of assignments they're getting for their classes. And again, about 66% of them are saying they're getting the right amount of work for their classes, and only about 34% are saying that they're getting too many assignments for the amount of classes that they're taking. We did get more specific with that information and try to ask our students on this next slide, where and in what subjects and in which courses are you getting too much work? The good news is that the work seems to be coming in the right places. So you don't see any issues with any of the elective courses giving too much work, or physical education, even the language department. What you do see is a higher number of students referencing too much work in the math and sciences, and to some degree English and social, which is not quite as high. I guess that's showing us that the core areas are trying to maintain their program and instructional level. And I think part of the dual nature of what they're trying to accomplish is because the state has not released or reduced any of the mandates for those regions courses as of right now, our teachers are trying their best to try to keep up with the pace of what the instruction and the standards are, even though I know that they're being very flexible and concerned about getting to the end. So for example, our science department does still have the lab requirement, and I know that it's very hard for them to accomplish those minute requirements through the time that we're providing them in both the hybrid and the remote model. So they can't really scale back on some of those assignments. But what I thought was interesting is when we actually drilled down and asked the students more about this, some of their responses indicated that they do not feel most of them do not feel they need more academic support. Again, none of the elective or special areas were mentioned. Science and math was most common. The classes that they specifically referenced were some of our higher level classes like calculus, AP calculus, pre-calculus, chemistry, physics, AP physics, algebra 2, AP bio, and English. A lot of them did not say which specific English, but those are the classes where they felt like the workload was higher and kind of a little bit stressful. And again, those are some of our higher level math and science classes that typically would have a higher workload. And I thought what I wanted to put on here, one student's response was, how do you feel about needing additional academic support? And his response was very telling of many of our students. No, I just need things to get back to normal. So I thought that was a very poignant response from that individual, and I think it tells us a lot about the fact that we are trying so hard to meet the needs of every kid, and they're all so different and all so unique, and some of them have needs in one area and some of them prefer another type of learning model. But the reality is what we really want to provide them, we haven't been able to provide them with yet, which is getting things back to normal, and I don't think that's at any fault of any of us. I will go on and say that if you talk a little bit about the synchronous live instruction that they're receiving, 63% feel they're getting the right amount of live instruction. The other high area is about 35% in yellow, showing that they're spending too much online for synchronous instruction. Most of us know, we don't know many kids who are going to tell us they're not getting enough instruction, but there wasn't very many that said that. The yellow chunk, again, we did drill down a little bit more into why. Well, all I will say about these comments, and I'm not going to read every single one, but for every comment that I got for something, I got another comment against that same thing. I do think students have engaged more since we've added the Google breakout rooms in the last 2 weeks, as well as the opportunity to poll students and raise your hand features, all in the Google updates that we received. Some students said teachers need to ask more questions and engage students more in conversation and have less lecturing during the online time. Some students said they wanted less Google Meets and more time during the day to get work done because they can't focus that long. But then again, there were other students who said the opposite. They liked having more time. A lot of the students were very, very adamant about not being forced to have their cameras on. I do think we have a population of students who are somewhat embarrassed by maybe their surroundings, or embarrassed in some of the different natures of activities they're completing. For example, physical education, some of the students are a little self-conscious about participating while others are watching them in their classroom. We had some that asked for less assignments, but we also wanted more extra credit assignments. We want some who want teachers to spend a little bit more time explaining assignments, and we have some who think that they're spending too much time explaining assignments. Some of the students mentioned that what relieves stress for them is listening to music, and some of the conversations that they miss having with their colleagues, which I think will help with the Google Classrooms. Just a couple more instructionally. One is, are you having difficulty with too much time in front of the computer screen for instruction and assignments? And we had 59% said that they were having difficulty with too much time in front of the computer screen. Again, 22% said they're not sure, and then 18% no, they feel is not too much time in front of a computer screen. And then another one I thought was particularly interesting was that how many of our students are having internet or connectivity issues that are impacting their participation in instruction. As you know, this morning we woke up with a panic in terms of Google being down, and a lot of our students were a little bit stressed initially, and we got many faculty with text messaging us. However, that was resolved very quickly, but 40% are saying, almost 40% are saying with the red number, that they have had internet issues at some point that have impacted their instruction. So I'm going to quickly turn this over to Karen just to say what we're doing for some of our students who we're targeting, because we've learned that they're disengaged.
Okay, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the other types of data that we have used. One of the ones when we started off with hybrid is every 5 weeks we take the students' grades and we're checking them to see how they're doing, because that was what we did. We'd call them down, we'd see if there were other issues besides just the academics that were going on. We provided support to those students, we called the families, we got them extra help if they needed it. Then with the changing to the remote model came all new students that had different challenges. We got the hybrid one starting to move, and then all of a sudden now there's new challenges for the other students. A whole new group of students showed up. We did have about 8 students, and it seems to be the same number as Hillary's, but we had 8 students that actually wanted some help with organization because they were doing okay, but they weren't sure if they were getting all of their work done. So we reached out to those students from the survey. So one of the things that has been happening for the last 3 or 4 years is we have this instructional support team that meets once a week. We focus with the counselors, and we're able to check on our own students each and every week and see how they're doing, or every 5 weeks to see if a new student pops up that something's happening to. So what we did last week was we also had another survey done by our teachers, and we had the teachers fill out a Google form for the engagement of the students, whether the students were showing up online and participating in the Google Meets, and also or whether they were completing their work or not completing their work. So they're not showing up on the Google Meets, or they're not showing up on their work. And one of the very interesting aspects of that is when that survey came out and we got those names, there wasn't one surprise from our instructional support team, because every single one of those students we have already been doing things for. We've already been in contact with them. So right now, what we have in place throughout the first 15 weeks is our intervention attempts have included the phone calls home to the parents, from the teachers. We've also had support staff working with some of the students. We've had our counselors calling, and administration has called. We also have sent emails to the families. We've held meetings with students and families, and conducted a number of home visits. I have to say that many of them have been very successful to get the students, moving in the right direction of engagement, getting better grades right now, because that's what we look at. But right now, the next step that we can come up with is we're going to be sending a letter home to show everyone about how failing their courses will affect their graduation or the future years of school at Grand Island. So that's where we are right now.
Well, thank you. Any questions for our high school team?
As of right now, Regents is a full go. Do we know? Have we heard anything? The June exams are? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we have not heard that they've deviated, but Mike, maybe you have some additional information?
No, I mean, January exams are canceled, and I will say that we are canceling our traditional January exam week. So all of our department chairs and our teachers have agreed that we need to have that time as instruction. So that last week of January will be now instructional time. And then in June, we're just waiting to hear. I think that we're all hearing and pretty confident that it's not going to look like it has in the past. And in all likelihood, we don't expect to see exams or have exams, but that has not come down from the state yet. But that is the general consensus amongst most of the high school principals across the area and most of the people I've talked to.
Right. And Jade, to your question, Betsy DeVos early on as the school year started indicated that there wouldn't be any waivers or exemptions, but now that there is a change at the federal government level, we'll have to wait and see, who the new Secretary of Education is and what their mission and vision is.
So just to add to that, at the high school level, the state chooses which exams are required by the state. The federal government chooses which exams are required across the board, across the country. Right now, the two mandated federal exams are one math exam and one ELA exam. So the ELA Regents and probably the algebra exam, those are the two exams in question with the federal, and the other ones are at a state level, and the state could determine to cancel any of those other exams without the federal government needing to give any okay for that.
Thank you.
I'm just going to interrupt for one quick second. As of right now, AP exams are still a go, and it looks like they're still going to be running the AP exams. They have a second way of doing it right in the home of the child, like they did last year.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions for the high school team? All right. So Ashley, that concludes that portion of the agenda.
Brian, I do have one question for you. It's more as a district level than the high school or middle school. But I'm going to ask again about our Wednesday I know we're using Wednesday as extra help for our students at the middle school and high school level. And while I'm sure our teachers are working very hard on that day, my son and other parents I have spoken to, it's a day off for our kids. And if they're working an hour and a half or 2 hours, that's all they're doing. So, I know we talked about looking at how much support our teachers were giving on that Wednesday, because I really think in general, we are failing our middle school and high school students by not having some sort of better instruction or the instruction that they're getting Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I know we said we'd take a look at it. I don't know where we stand, but I continue to say that we need to look at that. I love to hear that at Sidway and out at Huth and Kegabine that they're loving the 5 days of engagement, and our middle school and high school is not getting that. So I just want to put it out there and hope that we're looking at it, because I really think there's a place to do better.
So just to be clear, you're saying that the feedback you're getting, and as a parent yourself or feedback from the community, is that on Wednesday, when children can log in and be with their teachers for extra help and follow that their day schedule, you're hearing it's not enough, or you're seeing that as a
they're not following a schedule, and they're only getting help if they ask for help, is my understanding. I've spoken to quite a few parents. I don't believe my son gets on with a teacher on Wednesdays. So, and the schoolwork he has is very minimal. I don't know if that's because he's doing well, he doesn't need time to catch up, or he's keeping up every day. But I've talked to a handful of teachers, and there's really nothing to the level that they would like to see happening on that day. So, I don't want to say there's nothing, but, elementary, Sidway, they've got 5 days, and our middle school and high school doesn't. So I'm just hoping that we're utilizing all that time wisely.
I think one way to improve the utilization of that time and the student engagement is to post like a Google Doc that can be seen on the website of Wednesday, Wednesday help sessions, and just have teachers go in and add every week and adjust every week when they're offering the Wednesday help sessions, because the times might change, or they may add another group depending on how students are doing with a particular unit. But I think it would be helpful to have that document on there so that parents can encourage their children on Wednesdays at the middle school and high school. And I know they're older, it should be independent, but there's always going to be students that don't, or the parents, if the parents get on them and say, come on, I really want you to log into this extra help, they'll take advantage of it. So I think we should probably start there with putting something up that parents can access and see, so they know when their child should be going on there. Because if they're not doing anything all day, or they're doing like an hour of something a day, there might be a couple other hours of time they're supposed to be on or could be on, but aren't taking advantage of it.
So Ashley, the understanding of the parents out there that is awesome, right? What we said, when we talked about this last meeting, it was that the students that needed help on Wednesday, right? So if you have a child that does not need help, they don't need to do all that, right? So we're looking at, unless your kid needs extra help, there's nothing going on, right? So I appreciate the schedule and all of that, and it's not for the majority of the kids, and if kids are logging on and that's working, then we need to communicate that. But to say that the kids need to do it independently, if they don't need the help, then they don't need to be involved, right? That's good. And if there's a schedule and the kids don't need help, that's one thing. But for the kids that don't need help, there's nothing going on.
I just want to add, my students think also, my kids, sorry, think also it's a day off. They asked why they had math assessments on Wednesday coming up because they should have off. I know my other daughter also had a science test scheduled, and she goes, I don't understand. Why did my teacher schedule a science test? I don't have to log on. So I think my kids feel the same way yours do, so that they don't have to log in to meet with anyone.
Correct.
And when you don't make it mandatory for older kids, I mean, I teach adults, if I don't make it mandatory, they don't come because it's not mandatory.
Well, if they don't need the additional help or extra help as they're calling it, then they don't need to get on, right? So
I feel like they don't, yeah.
Well, it's whether they feel or they don't feel. I don't feel my son needs extra help, right? So if you're posing it as extra help on a Wednesday, that's what it is. It's not additional instruction. It's not a mandatory day. And a lot of parents feel that way. So there are a lot of parents out there frustrated that our kids are still not getting 5 days of an education. So I'm just putting it out there. It's, I trust that you guys are all doing the best you can and that we're utilizing that time on Wednesday. But I would love for us to continue to look at it because for most of the students and to all of the parents I've spoken to, it's a day off for their kids.
Good. I appreciate the feedback. John, can you just speak as a middle school principal on, your perspective on this Wednesday and some of the work? I know that Nicole just mentioned there is some assessment going on and things like that. If you could just kind of summarize that for us.
Yeah. So the first Wednesday that we had is the optional Wednesday, as it's being called, was actually this past Wednesday. So that was the very first time we got to assess how it was being utilized. The way it was stated to our students is, yes, our teachers will be on for extra help in office hours. And Adam Buffamani put out a survey after that Wednesday to kind of see where our kids were at, who was using the office hours. And Mrs. Marson, you're right. We didn't have a whole lot of kids use the office hours. I think up to 20 kids use the office hours for a lot of different reasons, though. There are kids who feel very uncomfortable, first of all, getting online individually with a teacher because you don't know who's in the background in that household, or they don't want to show that. But that's not the only thing. What we did find was almost unexpected. We had one teacher report that on that Wednesday, he had 40 emails from his students to answer individual questions. So although they didn't show up in an office hour, he spent his morning answering emails. We had other teachers respond to us saying that although they didn't show up for an office hour, they had the freedom and the time to then reach out and spend time with kids who needed that support. That they didn't reach out and search out on their own. As middle school students, as you know, probably the most of them won't reach out for that extra help. So we have to often go after them. Tomorrow, the math assessment, for 2 weeks now, our teachers have been telling each of their students that this isn't an optional Wednesday. Wednesdays are not an option. That has been reiterated over and over in every teacher's classroom. And tomorrow is a iReady math assessment, which helps determine what students need for us to support their instruction. And so our teachers have been putting out videos to kids in their virtual classrooms. I'd be really surprised, but I can't say it's 100% because we all know students. Our teachers have been really telling their kids what tomorrow is as far as this iReady math assessment. And like I said, I'd be surprised if there are students who don't know about it because either they haven't logged in at all, but they should know what's going on tomorrow especially. This is an important assessment for our school. It's a program that we purchased this year that's being utilized K-8. And it's a big assessment for us to tell us where our students need some help. So yeah, it's a work in progress. We're willing, as a middle school especially, to review how it's going. But I was really, really personally, I was happy that this past Wednesday, the first time we had that virtual Wednesday, we had more time for our teachers individually to reach out to kids who needed help and for kids to send them feedback in return.
Good. Thank you, John. Mike, I see you raised your hand. Nice job.
I raised my hand today. So I just want to add to address Ashley's question. I do know that ours is our Wednesday schedule and John's Wednesday schedule is posted. It's just following the period by period schedule from 10 o'clock until I think it's about 1:50, 20-minute classes. So that is posted on our website. So any parent can go to our high school page under quick links and they can see what that is. And it was sent out to all parents. So that is available for them. And I also just want to address the fact that, you know, I mentioned this before, every kid is different and what every kid needs is so different. We have so many kids commenting in these surveys that are saying, I am sick of being in front of the teacher when I'm hearing the things that I need to know. What I need is the time to work on assignments. Here at the high school, we are giving homework. We are giving assignments, especially in our core classes. So a lot of the students are using those days to complete the tasks that they're being asked to complete. So I think at our building, although I know most of our elective areas are not giving work on those days, I know that many of our class teachers in science, math, English, and social studies are giving work on those days. And when I say about every kid is different, some of those kids who really aren't getting the one-on-one support that they need in a Google Meet like this are really getting that opportunity to get more hands-on time with the teacher. So we were trying to come up with a way that would kind of balance the needs of all the kids, and we hoped that that would be the case. And as John said, it was the first one, and I know we only have about this week and next week to go, and then hopefully we'll be back in hybrid and on the 4th.
I just want to keep it fresh, that I would like to have it continually looked at. You know, there's also a perceived perception out with some parents that, you know, the anticipation now is all the schoolwork's done Monday through Friday during school hours. And by giving the kids that Wednesday to do the additional work, you know, there's really no homework per se at night and over the weekends, right? So I'm not saying what we're doing is wrong. I'm just telling you, you know, it's parents want their kids taught, right? So, and I understand kids need extra help, but you know, and I understand things are different. I feel I need to speak, you know, for them and on behalf of them, because you know they are calling, right? And there's an expectation, and I understand it's a work in progress, but you know we have to do the best by all of our students, and I just want to continually to look at that day, and I hope we are back hybrid. I'd love to see us back 5 days. Everybody knows that's my feeling, and I'm sure all of you as educators would like to have our kids back in the classroom. But I just want to make sure that you know we're utilizing the time the best we can under the circumstances we're in.
Very good. Any other comments before we move on? Okay, thank you, Ashley. I think you're still muted, Ashley.
Sorry, we did not have anyone sign up for the public comment session for items not included on the agenda. So that brings us to Committee of the Whole items and information for the roundtable, beginning with Jay.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say overall thank you for all the great work. Brian, your leadership and advocacy at the state level. Cheryl, your work with the nurses to get the testing in line. Principals, the teachers and staff have done an amazing job being flexible and being able to pivot to a full virtual model. I see it with my own daughters. You know, what you're doing has been really good work, and I just want to say thank you for that. And also happy holidays to everybody.
Nicole?
Same thing I do all day, still on mute. I just want to thank all the students, parents, teachers, everyone for all the work they're putting forth and to know after all of this time to take time to enjoy those couple days you have with your kids. Hopefully we will be back in school still on January. I know my kids look forward to going back. even though they have had great success on the virtual learning. I know they want to go back and see their teachers in person too. So that's all.
Okay, is Glenn back with us? No? Okay. Sue?
I'm just going to say ditto to what Jay and Nicole said, and wish everybody a happy holiday.
Joy?
Same here, and happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks. Robin?
Also, same. Big thank you. I know it's a lot on both ends. And happy holidays.
Okay, Cheryl or Ruby, starting with Cheryl.
Yep. Just happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks. Ruby?
I just wanted to mention that the ESSA reporting is due December 31st. They moved that up by 3 months. So thank you to them for that. So ours will be submitted this week. I'm finishing that up. We are starting our budget meetings with our different departments and administrators. So once we come back, I think we have one board meeting that's a normal board meeting, and then we go into our budget meetings. But that first board meeting, I probably will have a little bit of information to share with the board, at least showing where we currently stand with revenue and expenses, just so you have a little bit of a heads up, as well as we haven't received any updates on the 20% holdback. Everything we receive right now is just, remember, we're holding 20% back. So we're still waiting for that. I hope everyone has an enjoyable holiday. Stay safe, enjoy your family and your pets, and that's it.
Thank you. Jude?
I just want to say, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yep.
good. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Stay healthy, stay safe. Enjoy your families.
Thank you. Brian?
So I want to start by just pointing out that Jude has wrapped my gift in the background. You can see it behind her. It's quite large. I don't know what it is, but principals, take note. Okay, she's really trying to butter me up. So I don't know if bigger is better, but thank you, Jude, for getting the gift all wrapped up for me. I just wanted to say the same. You know, our teachers are doing an exceptional job while we've been 100% remote. I've had an opportunity to observe my own son, you know, and he's engaged and compliant and doing some good work. Although we all know that in-person teaching learning is preferred, it's certainly been remarkable to see how our teachers have adapted to this virtual 100% model. Cheryl Friday is taking the lead along with our district office for a food, toiletry, and toy drive. So if you're interested in donating a food item or a toy item or a toiletry item, please consider dropping them off behind the high school this Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. and again on Saturday from 9 to noon. The food and toiletry items will be given to the Neighbors Foundation food pantry, which is located at St. Stephen's. And then the toys will be delivered to families who are working with our current social workers and counselors and psychologists. Those toys will be delivered to needy families here on Grand Island on Christmas Eve. Finally, I know many of us are looking forward to saying goodbye to 2020 and welcoming 2021 in the weeks ahead. So I would like just to take this time to wish everybody a safe new year filled with great health, love, laughter, and hopefully the creation of some new wonderful memories as we really look ahead to celebrate the holidays differently this year. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. I'd just like to also ditto what everyone said. Happy holidays, and thank you to everyone district-wide for all of your hard work to make the remote learning and hybrid models successful for students. A couple of announcements. December 24th to January 3rd is our winter recess. January 4th, the hybrid learning model will begin again and will reopen. January 11th is a Board of Education meeting at the middle school. January 18th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, no school. And
January 25th is a Board of Education meeting and work session. If I could have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:35 p.m., please.
I'll motion.
I can motion.
Second.
I can second. I don't know who you got for the first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
Motion carried 6-0. Good night.
Night.
Everyone.